Hi, everyone. Welcome to session two of our study hall 2026. It is Jay, along with my partner, Zach. We are here to serve the masses, if you will, on these uh, Hub, Gulfport Analytics, Tom's Trading Room training sessions. We call them study halls. So this is study hall 2026, session number two. Zach, how in the heck are you, sir?
I'm doing great, Jay. Excited to be back in the series with you and kicking off session two, as you said.
Yes, sir. Here we go. Before we can get into that, you know what we have to do, Zach, compliance. Let's take care of these folks, all right? It says that stock options and cryptos has large potential rewards. They also have large potential risk. You must be aware of the risks and be willing to accept them in order to invest in the stock, cryptos, and options market. Recognize, folks, that neither Zach or myself, we are not registered investment advisors in the U.S., and we are not here to give, and nor do we give investment or trading advice. Anything that you see in our training sessions here, where we're using the tools and the software to look up actual case studies or, excuse me, trade ideas, they are not case studies. Forgive me. They're not recommendations. If you want to act on those, pursue the information with your broker, consult if it's suitable to your portfolio and the like. What Zach and I are here to do is teach you how to effectively and efficiently use the software. Now, here's our email addresses for both Zach and myself. I am lead support for Tom Gentile for Gulfport Analytics. Zach is lead support for Hub and Elliott Wave Options, known as Evo Trader. If you have customer service type concerns or requests, we handle those and we'll gladly take care of you on those concerns, just not in these sessions, because these sessions are designed to be your training sessions, not your customer service support questions about changing your emails. What do I have access to in the tools versus what I've paid? When is my expiration? That type of stuff. We'll deal with those. But right now, let's focus on the training on how to use the software. We are not doing an actual intermediate or advanced or mastery course. Those are taken care of by our qualified and very talented and skilled certified instructors. And we will let you watch those as you've paid to do. But we recognize that there are times when you're trying to track along and follow the instructor that people get lost and ask them to go back and show something. Well, that's where Zach and I come in with these sessions. We're trying to help you get efficient with your navigation so that you're able to follow along with the instructors in their classes and not feel lost and not drag behind. If you still need review on the tools and the navigation, we're also here to make you effective when you're operating the software without being in a class, when you're looking for trade opportunities on your own. And that's the general premise. You hear Tom say it all the time. My goal, the mantra is teach you how to spot an opportunity, find an acceptable risk trade, and then manage that trade. And that's what these tools allow you to do. And we're going to show you how to effectively and efficiently manage those. We're going to do it in a half-hour format too, meaning that's going to take about 15 minutes. I'm going to take about 15 minutes on our subject matters. We'll have time at the end for Q&A. But what we find is that when we have like an hour plus to an hour and a half of a session, people tend to get hesitant, Zach. They're like, oh man, do I have to go through the whole hour and a half on a recording just to find that section that they want to watch? So if we keep it clear and concise, get in, get out with our subject matter, then we find that it's easier for people to want to go look at the recordings again and can effectively and efficiently find those sections they need to review better than if we make it a big, long, extended piece.
Absolutely. Yeah, no doubt about that. And very well said there, Jay. We're looking to be as concise as possible for each of these sessions, and we plan to advance in the concepts that are covered, and it'll be more in depth as we progress throughout this series. But for each session, it'll be just about 15 minutes each of our presentations, and then Q&A for any of our live attendees for any questions that they might have, and we'll be able to address that in real time. So.
Nice. Yeah. Now, the folks that are in the room, we said it on our first session, we'll say it again. There are various levels. Some are beginners. Some of you guys are just starting out. Some of you gals have been here a while. So if you're a newer person, hang in there. We're going to cover the basics. We're going to get you taken care of and get you up to speed. For some of you veterans that are looking at this and going like, man, this is pretty basic. maybe I'll come back on the next session. We understand that, but we can test that no matter what level you're at, you're going to learn something. And for you seasoned veterans, we can get complacent at times, right? We can like think we got it all down and then certainly skip through something because we're getting in too much of a rush or we think we already have it down. So it's good to have that repetition and duplication and review to kind of help sink in what you might have just let go by the wayside because you think you've already got it down. So no matter what your level, you're going to learn or get relearned on some things. And then recognize we have our discussion boards, our forum in the software, and we ask that everybody participate and communicate and keep in touch during the weeks in those forums because if you post something that you learned and you want to share it with the others, Zach covered that in our first session, how to do so. And if you're new and you're afraid to ask a question in class, maybe it's easier to ask a question on the discussion boards. We can all participate and help each other. And Zach and I iterated last week. We'll iterate it as often as we can. We stand to make more money together than we can alone. And just know that you have a group of like-minded individuals here in the community that we want to take care of each other and help everybody prosper and do as well as they can in executing the software to find better trade opportunities and hopefully have those trades work out more and more in our favor. So with that, Zach, go ahead and switch on over, brother. You're going to take our first session again this week. I think you're going to start off in the chart pages.
That is correct, Jay. And
Okay,
yeah,
cool.
thank you for that introduction. Very well said. And as you mentioned, I covered in the first session where we can access the overall study hall discussion board and forum. But as a quick review, just for anyone that's joining us for the first time or perhaps hasn't had the chance to view the study hall first session that we covered, we're going to come down here to the groups chat column on this left side, and at the very bottom is going to be the study hall group, including the forum that you just referenced. And so as we can see, we have that first session posted here, and we already have some interaction regarding the overall request for subject matter, as you touched on there, Jay. So it's great to see that already kicking off in the structure and fashion that we are intending it to be. And I'm very much an order of absolutely. Yeah, it's great. And I'm very much an order of operations structured person. So as you said, for our seasoned veterans out there, it might seem a little introductory or intermediate in regards to the topics covered, but it's never a bad thing to have a refresher on certain aspects or just to even have that resource if you ever get fuzzy on certain material or overall questions and structure of features and functionality that the platform has to offer. So without further ado, let's go ahead and kick off into today's session, and that's going to be on charts for my portion. As we can see, my cursor is highlighted up here on the top right toolbar on the first toggle of ideas or the light bulb. As we move right inside of that towards the right, we have the charts icon. That's what I selected here, and that brought us to this charts view of the platform. So I'm going to go through each of the different toggles and available settings to modify over here on the left side, and make sure that we just detail what all we can expect to be able to change and modify to our preferences or liking on this charts page. Excuse me. So without further ado, let's start out by going through the first toggle, and that's going to be the periodicity or time interval, more commonly referenced. And so to change the overall time interval that we're looking at for any given chart, we're going to go through and select either 1 day, 1 week, or 1 month. It's worth noting at this stage that there will be a change to this overall menu as we eventually are going to be on a 15-minute delayed data cycle. So there will be more options or more intervals of time to select to a more specific period amount of time for the chart that you want to analyze. But for right now, we have the 1 day, 1 week, 1 month, 1 month view. And so I just wanted to make that note that this will change at some point. We're currently in negotiations and finalizing a deal with new data providers on having that 15-minute delayed data. But for now,
that's exciting news, Zach.
Absolutely. Very exciting. I know there's a lot of traders excited about that being implemented.
Yes,
absolutely.
Sir.
And so,
nice job on periodicity.
Yeah,
when you
thank you.
hover over that, folks, that name comes up. Zach and I, we have a tongue twister kind of saying periodicity. So we just say time interval, but nice job, sir.
There it is. Yep, there's that word, periodicity, and just a tongue twister for whatever reason. There's certain words that sometimes just don't seem like they are enunciated or pronounced the way that they are. But time interval seems easier for me, so it might be what I stick to. For this chart, we're going to go with just the daily, so we'll go with 1 day. And one part that I skipped over that I do want to make sure we cover is first the symbol search window. This defaulted to the SPY as this is what I was looking at the last time I was on the Hub platform. But let's say I wanted to view or analyze a different chart. We just toggle that symbol search window up here at the left corner. And now a menu is prompted available for me to type in the associated symbol for the stock, ETF, indice, commodity, crypto, Forex, so on and so forth. So let's say for this session, we'll do NVIDIA. And I typed in the symbol there. One thing I noted in the first session that I also want to make sure I highlight in this session is that there's going to be on various amount of times different symbols listed or different options listed for the same symbol. So let's say for NVIDIA, we want to view the one on the NASDAQ exchange. That's going to be the primary NVIDIA ordinary chart that everyone is going to be looking for. There's also the NVIDIA ordinary chart that's listed on the Amex and the hedge CDR that's available on the TSX. And so Jay and I have both had clients write in from time to time saying that their data isn't matching up or they're encountering some issue that isn't lining up with what they've seen in perhaps some of the educational webinars or weekly webinars that our instructors offer. And that usually is because the symbol they're viewing is on a different exchange than the one that it is primarily listed on. And so for this one, for NVIDIA, we're going to go with the NASDAQ. And a point that Jay made in the first session, which I feel like is worth highlighting, is for the vast majority of symbols, at least on the US markets, you can feel safe in looking for the NYSE or the NASD, the NASDAQ, as this NVIDIA chart is listed on. So we'll select the first one here. And as we can see, we already have a wave pattern illustrated. That's going to be due to my favorites that are already toggled on. So I'm going to get to that in just a bit. But for now, I'll toggle that off just to give the overall default view that any new users or people that might not have had time to modify the chart settings to this date would have illustrated at first. So again, we started with the interval of time being the daily chart. We're now going to go down to the chart type. And so upon toggling the chart type, we're prompted with a menu of all the different chart types that we can view. You can go with the standard bar as this first toggle. We can go with the colored bar, which I'm a creature of comfort or a creature of habit. And I've always, when I started out learning about options trading and just the options world as a whole, these are the charts that I was most familiar with, seeing green bars and red bars and as indication of up days and down days. However, there's a variety, a variety of different charts to select, as we can see. With the colored bar, we have the candle, which is another very popular one. And yeah, I know Jay out there he views candle charts for his technical analysis and technical charting, which I know is another very common chart preference that others use in their analysis. As you might be familiar with, some of us out there might have subscribed to Jeff Beamer's portfolios in the past, or maybe a current subscriber under the EWO umbrella. He likes to look at the Heiken Ashi candles. So it's a modified type of candle chart that you can look at here, again, with the wicks indicating where that chart closed, or where that stock rather closed on the day, whether it was an up day, down day, or somewhere in between. We have variety of other options here, depending on how specific or what your overall preference is for charts. But I think that gives a pretty good overview of all the different options you have here. So one of the very cool features that's worth pointing out, and depending on what equity, chart, commodity, stock, ETF, whatever you might be viewing, you might have a certain preference associated depending on the category it falls under. But for me, as I said, I'm a creature of habit and I prefer that color bar view. Moving down to the next toggle, we have tools. So this is going to be the drawing tools or the studies. These are both available as their own toggles on the left-hand toolbar, and they're also available up here as their own tabs on this menu that was prompted after selecting the tools toggle. So to first go down through the drawing tools, we will see all of the different drawing tools and different options we have to select for those, along with the settings for each of them and the ability to highlight or fill in the favorite star, which will then drop it down to the favorites toggle window over here on the left side. And so to illustrate how that is achieved, let's say I want to use the fib projection drawing tool as a favorite or something that I'm going to reference very commonly as I log into the Hub platform and utilize the technical charting aspect. Upon selecting the star, it is now highlighted in yellow and selected. I'll select OK. And as we move down towards the favorites window on this left column, we can see that it is now available for me to select, and it will always be there no matter if I log in, log out, and go throughout different pages and navigate throughout the platform. As we always come back to the chart toggle or page, this will be available here under the favorites column. And so that's something I feel like is worth noting for the drawing tools and for the studies. It works the same way. As I said, under the tools toggle here, after we select studies, that same menu is prompted. It's also available to be changed up here on the top tabs. And let's say as we work through the different studies available, we want to add the Bollinger Bands as a favorite or something that we'll use as a common reference as we technically chart throughout our use of this platform. After highlighting and selecting the star for the Bollinger Bands, I'll select OK and see that it is now available under that favorites window for me to select at my reference and ease. So overall, that about covers everything for the drawing tools and studies windows. As you can see, there's a number of different ways to narrow down your search for a specific study or drawing tool you might be looking for whatever chart you might be analyzing. But the favorites and knowing that there's also the settings toggle as well available for you to select, I think is the main highlight of this window. And changing settings from this dialog is not quite available. You'll get this message for certain features and functionality throughout the platform as you navigate, as this is an ever-growing platform that we are going to continually be implementing patch updates and growing its overall functionality as we continue to roll on each week. All right, so we'll exit out of this window and move down to the next toggle, which is going to be the cursor toggle. So we have the primary arrow toggle as the top choice. After selecting that, we can see that my cursor changed to just the primary arrow that most of us are out there are likely familiar with. For the second selection, we have the crosshair. This is one of my favorite ones as well to use. As you can see, as I go through each bar of data for this chart on NVIDIA, at the very bottom, you'll notice that the date is provided of what day of data I'm referring to. And so that's always available on the crosshair cursor selection. And on the right side, or on the right axis, you can see the price as well for each individual day of data that I'm moving through. Coming back over to the cursor window, we have the third selection of Doodle. This can be the overall sketching or doodling aspect of the cursor selection. So if there's something you want to annotate or bring attention to, you can use the doodle cursor. I right-clicked on that doodle, and let's say that I decide I don't want that on there anymore. I actually have the ability to remove the drawing individually from this window, or I can remove all drawings if there was a number of them on there that I wanted to remove.
I referenced Etch-a-Sketch last session, Zach. I guess I was a session too early. That's the Etch-a-Sketch.
Yep, this is the Etch-a-Sketch here for if you want that nostalgia of overall functionality and structure there. You have that ability to go through and do. And again, you can annotate in whatever form you like. If there's a certain bar or a certain period of data that you want to look at, or a screenshot that you want to include, and perhaps a trade idea, which I covered in the first session, you could use this cursor again to doodle and bring attention to that area or that interval of time. For the last cursor selection, we have the floating info. Now, I've had numerous requests via support for this cursor to understand how to get this information and this data, as it may have been seen in other webinars or discussed about in other forums, and it seems to be of a lot of interest to a lot of our users and subscribers out there. Upon selecting the floating info, as we can see as we move through each day of data, the open, close, high, and low is provided for each individual day of data. And so that's a very helpful reference to have for whatever chart you might be analyzing, as you'll have that data provided for you in the square window as you move through each day. Excuse me again. And it's, again, been something that's been in high demand and support requests. So definitely wanted to make sure that that was covered and we know how to reference that. Now we'll go back to the cursor selection and just go back to my preference of crosshair and move down to the next toggle, which is going to be templates. This is another request that both Jay and I have received via support regarding its overall functionality and how to achieve it. Upon selecting the templates toggle, we'll see a couple templates that I have already saved, but let's say that I want to go through the process of saving a new template, which I will for presentation purposes in this session, and that's going to include the Elliott wave excuse me, count. And let's say I want to do the IV overlay, excuse me, or implied volatility. And that's the new template that we want to have on all of our charts as we progress and navigate through different charts throughout this page. We'll go to the templates toggle once again and select save new template. And for this session, let's just do study hall test or example. And after selecting OK, we'll go back to the templates toggle and see that that's now available for me to select. So if we move throughout different symbols, equities, ETFs, commodities, Forex, all the things that we can view on this charts page. If we select the study hall example, as I just named that template, the overall settings, including the Elliott wave and IV drawing tools and indicators, will always be overlaid on any chart that we view just by selecting that template. So you can customize the template to your exact preference and have that, again, available overlaid on any chart that you view as you progress throughout the platform. One last thing under templates, if we want to clear the current template, we have that toggle available here. And we also, again, can save a new template if we decide there's something else that we'd like to be included in our most referenced or most commonly used settings, indicators, and tools that we like to view. So I'm going to clear this current template, and I'm going to wrap up the chart setting or the charts presentation by going through settings, the last toggle available here. After selecting the chart setting toggle, we have the show current price line toggle that's already selected, the static info display. Now, Jay and I discussed a couple weeks ago about the overall interest in this feature as well. Upon deselecting the show static info display, you might have noticed that the open, high, and the low of the and the overall close for the symbol for this example being NVIDIA went away. Upon selecting or checking the static info display box once again, we can see that that information is now available up there at the top. So if that's something that you've been viewing on your charts and not sure how to achieve getting it overlaid on the chart you're viewing, that's the overall box that you want to make sure is selected. And then we also have the range selector, which by default is not selected, but upon selecting that box, we can see down here at the bottom, and I'll get out of this window real quick to show that we can go down to in a very specific interval of time that we want to view or analyze for the given chart that we're looking at. So upon dragging these two windows or sliders on the right side, we have the interval of February to May that is now being displayed on this chart view. For going back to the chart settings general tab, I'm going to deselect the range selector and deselect the show footer to show that that went away down there at the bottom. I'll select it again as we can see what that's referencing. After selecting OK, we'll see that the time zone overall toggle and bar above the options here is available for us to select. And this is where we can modify the time zone setting for the chart view we're looking at, depending on what time zone you might be in or a time zone that you just want to view for any given chart. Going back through the settings toggle here, we have the price access as the next tab, including the log scale, grid lines, position, and font size. So you can change the overall view of the font for your price access, which is going to be on this right side. Same is available for the date access down here at the bottom. If you want to display grid lines, show extended hours or after hours data, font size and font color, again, for the overall view for this bottom access or the date access, you have the ability to change or modify the settings here. The next tab will be appearance, and this is solely for the line thickness. So let's say we want to have a little bit bigger of a line. We'll go to 4px, and that's going to be for pixels. And as we can see, that made the bars of data very thick and more profound, more prominent on the chart. I'm going to switch that back to 2 pixels as that's my preference. And for the last tab in the chart settings, excuse me, we'll go through creator mode. And for creator mode, by default, if we're brand new to the platform, we likely have the show camera preview toggle box selected. After selecting show camera preview and selecting OK, we'll come up to the top right toolbar to our profile and toggle on creator mode. And now we'll see that the camera view is available, which is what this box is associated with. So if you wanted to perhaps screen record, if you plan on streaming on the platform and using this as a reference, or just want to have a screen recording to perhaps post on the discussion board forum, you have the ability to use that functionality, which again highlights the ever-growing social media aspect of this platform. So to wrap up my presentation on the overall chart settings, we'll go back to the creator mode tab, and we'll deselect the show camera preview. As you can see, that made the black box in the right corner go away. And overall, I think that about wraps up everything that I had to show for this presentation on the chart settings. If we have any questions, of course, feel free to enter those in the Q&A for Jay and I to address once Jay gets through his presentation. Or, of course, as Jay said, feel free to comment on the study hall forum that we went over in the very beginning, where all of these recordings are going to live as we progress throughout this series. So without further ado, Jay, I'll pass over to you, sir.
Appreciate that. Yeah, that range selector is very cool because when you combine that with what you showed them in week 1 as to how to create posts and put information on, if they want to capture a specific image of a date range from when the trade started to when the trade ended, that range selector helps them just cut out everything else around that chart other than that specific time frame. So that's a really excellent feature, and thank you for showing that, sir.
Absolutely. My pleasure.
All right. I am going to be bringing up a chart, and you should be seeing a chart on Meta Platforms.
Yes, sir.
I'm going to minimize the view I see of myself here. So Meta Platforms, we might as well just leave it here. It's not that I'm going to show a specific trade on Meta Platforms for any specific reason. I am going to show you in my section the basics of using the options tools. And in using Meta, I'll be bringing up strikes and expirations at specific strikes for the purposes of education. But this is not me showing you this to say, hey, folks, we got to trade on Meta today. That's not what we're doing here. Nice work, Zach. Nice job on your session. You folks have the replay, and you know where to find us on the discussion boards now to follow up any questions or concerns and such. So nice work, brother.
Thanks, Jay. Appreciate that. I'm looking forward to your presentation.
All right. Well, let's get to it. So there's Meta. And I showed you in my first session how to minimize these margins. I'll do that again. I'm going to left click on that arrow in the left-hand margin to minimize it. I'm going to click on the 3 hash marks, the 3 hyphens stacked on top of each other to minimize that margin, just to bring in more emphasis on the overall chart. And in this case, the options. Now, when you're on a chart page and you want to take what you see on the chart and then eventually start saying, well, let me see if I can build an option trade around this based off wherever I think the stock's going to go, based off whatever technicals and indicators and studies that I'm using, And you can see me, creature of habit. I like to center it, and then left click and drag my price axis to center it and get it in a view that works for me. That quick little review on that. But to find the options on the bottom left-hand corner, you see it says options. Options beta. Beta just meaning we're constantly trying to improve upon what the capabilities of these options analysis tools can do. When you left click on options, it's going to bring up the options data table. Depending on the security, like if you have the SPY or the Qs, the most heavily traded and the most volume, the most number of strikes available, it may take a few seconds longer to bring up the options data table because there's just so many strikes to choose from. Now mine is set to where my options data table is about half the screen view of the chart. You can put your cursor on the line separating the chart from the options data table, and then left click and drag it to bring in more of what you want or less of what you want. So I'm going to take it about 50-50 again. And what we're seeing here now with the options, the data table, you can see that we have across the top here different columns, and the column titles are volume, open interest, delta, bid, ask. In the middle of the options data table, you have your strikes. On the right-hand side for the puts, it just reverses to bid, ask, delta, OI, and volume. Now you can left-click on each of these column headings, and there is a menu of different choices. You can select gamma, IV, rho, theta, vega. You can change these if you want, or just leave them as is. So we want VOL for volume and open interest. There's the strikes. Now, across the top of these columns, you have the information that shows C, P, M, and W. You see the drop-down menu for strikes, and you see the drop-down menu for select strategy. C and P is calls and puts. As noted, here's the strikes down the middle of the options data table. To the left, you have calls. To the right, you have your puts. If you left-click on the bold letter C, it minimizes or takes away the calls, and it leaves you with just your puts. So there it says puts over here. That's all you're looking at.
And real quickly, Jay, sorry to jump in, but just wanted to note that we're looking at the June 3rd contracts. And so that's why there's some of that data is not filled in. But if we go down to the June 5th, that might have more, it will have more data to reference for the different categories you're going through.
Yes, sir. And I appreciate that, Zach. You're leading the witness, if you will. I am getting to that. I promise you that.
Oh, my apologies.
No worries. No worries. My emphasis is the column headings and the information across the top here. My point after going over all of this was to emphasize, yes, the options expirations are listed down the left-hand side of your screen. No, I appreciate your concern for the students, Zach. Very, very nice for you to do that. And I promise I will get to that point. So let's go and click on C again, and it brings up both your calls and your puts. And again, if you just click on the P, you gray it out, you're left with just your calls over here. So if you click on auto, you bring in both C and P. Here, when I get into the monthlies and the weeklies, it's going to show you the options expirations on the left-hand side here that Zach was pointing out, those that are both monthlies and weeklies. If I click on the monthly and gray that out, I'm going to be left with just the weekly expirations that you see listed on the left-hand side here. Now, June 3rd, is the expiration that just happened. So you either have the one that just happened or the one that's next to happen. In this case, June 3rd, we don't need that. But the emphasis before I get to that is we're looking at just the weeklies. And so you can see all the weeklies for June are listed here. And then a couple for July. If you get rid of the grayed out M and make it bold, and then click on the W for weekly, you're getting rid of all the weeklies and you're leaving yourself with just the monthly expirations shown on the left-hand side here. You can see we get rid of all those Junes and the first couple of Julys, and we're just going like the third Friday expiration of each of the subsequent months. You want to bring them both into play, there you go. Now, as for strikes, you'll notice that it says 6. Over here on the right-hand side, it says 6 of 91 strikes. If you want to select on strikes and bring in more strikes than just the 6, you can click on the drop-down, choose the number of strikes that you want. If I choose 12, it'll bring in those extra 12 strike prices or include the extra 6 to make the 12. And it changes over here. 12 of 91 strikes you're looking at now. If you don't like that many strikes, you want to go back to what you had with 6, you can over here click the up arrow. You can expand the number of strikes, or click the down arrow to reduce the number of strikes. So let's go back down to the 6 by clicking the down arrow over here. And there's your 6 of 91 strikes. They're there. You'll notice that it did not change the drop down box over here. It still says 12 strikes. So if you go to a different ticker symbol and bring up the options chain, it may still say 12. And if you're cool with that, nothing to do. But if you want to keep it 6 all the time you switch between securities, make sure on the drop down arrow over here, you go and you click on the 6, and it'll stay 6. And it should be matching over here saying 6 of X number of strikes. Now, as Zach was pointing out, I'll get to select a strategy shortly before my session is done. But what Zach was pointing out is that over here on the left-hand side, you have the various different strikes. And yeah, we didn't have a lot of data for the June 3rd because that options information is already come and gone. So let's go ahead and left click on the up arrow, and it minimizes that batch of information for the June 3rd. And you can choose any strike out further that you want. I'll just choose June 8th. But if I click on June 8th, now it's bringing in pricing and the information that wasn't there on the expired June 3rds. So thanks, Zach. You're about 5 minutes ahead of me, sir, but your point is well taken, and you're taking care of the students. So we're all cool with that, man.
Yeah, no, I just got a little too eager there. I'm too get too excited about this type of stuff. So
yeah, no worries.
Perfect segue there, Jay.
We appreciate the excitement, man. Keep bringing that energy, brother. All right, so there we are, June 8th. All right, now we have the strikes. And what are we on? Meta? What's the price on Meta? At the last update, it was 628.40. All right, so if you want to look at just a call option on Meta, let's say maybe we think Meta is going to pop back up here to that resistance area of 688, 689. Well, if I want to buy a call option, which one do I want? There are lesson plans. There are courses and masteries that teach you how to select strikes, which expiration, in the money, out of the money, long calls, spreads, different combinations of strikes. That's not what this is for. But presuming you have an idea of what strike you want to buy, what options you want to pursue, or at least research, here's how to do that. On your strikes down here, if you want to look at calls, you're going to use the info on the left. So notice that when I hover my cursor over the ask on any strike, all the information on that row is going to be circled in a green color. That's presuming you're going to be buying at the ask. That's why it's green. If you hover your cursor over the bid price, it changes it to red, assuming you're going to sell at the bid. So it's just a color coding to help you recognize if you're buying or selling. Buy at the ask, sell at the bid. Of course, you folks know how to work the spreads and do all that other kind of stuff. But for the basics of this, there you are. Let's say we want to entertain going along a $625 June 8th expiration call option. So there's the 625 strike. There's the ask price for that option. When you left click on it, watch what happens to the options data table. We're going to click on the 625 strike, the offer price. Now it minimizes some of the real estate that the options data table was taken, and it brings up some options details. And that's what this box is called, your options details. This over here, your options data table. This is your options details. And it shows you the trade name. And it's just showing you the name based off the fact that you're looking at this today. That's why you have June 4th. That's today's date. The ticker is Meta. And because you chose a call, buying at the offer, it's a long call. It shows you the leg. You can have multiple legs listed in here. It shows you buy to open. It shows you the type, call, the strike, the expiry, DTE, days to expiration, QTY, quantity, and price. Now, if you want to look at that a little bit more blown up, minimize your options data table by that left arrow right there next to the risk curve box. When you left click on that, it takes the options data tables completely away. And now you're on your full options detail screen. as stated, there's a couple of ways that you can change the details in here. Now, as for the price, that's just what the tool's showing at the last update. When we get the 15-minute delay, it'll be whatever that price was as of that 15-minute delay ago. So there's your pricing. If you're going to save these, and you have the capabilities now, we can create a portfolio. We can save trades into portfolio. That's a lesson for a future session. But we are of the mindset that you should probably consider getting your fills in your actual trading account first before filling in your specific details on what you're using the tools for, which is paper trading, virtual trading, and tracking your trades. So if you look at 868 and you go to your brokerage and it's a better price at 850, well, and you get filled at 850, if you're tracking this trade at 868, your data is going to be off a little bit. So make sure if you're going to do an actual trade, get that fill first, then update the tools or the software later. But there's where to update your price. You can update your quantity. You can update your expiration. If you click on expiration, there's all the expiries that this security has. And you can click on the one that you want and it'll auto-populate in there for you. You can choose your different strikes and you can choose if you don't want to call, you want to look at the puts, you can just toggle back and forth there. And if you even say, well, I don't want to necessarily buy the call, let me look at selling to open a put. So you click on your action, sell to open. It changes it there to sell to open. You would then change to your put. And then you can either keep the same strike or change the data, whatever you want. You may have noticed some information over here changing. Let me go real quick back to the buy to open. Left click on the call. And what you're looking at over here now is it says long call. If I left it on STO on the put, it has said short put. Net debit, $868. $8, 8.68 times one contract, the equivalent of 100 shares is $868. You have your Greeks right there, your delta, your gamma, your theta, your vega. Your max risk in a long call option, your max risk is the max cost of the trade. One contract, $868. There's your risk. Your max profitability should have the infinity symbol there. And of course, you guys know it's infinite up till expiration. All right. And then your break evens. Now, I showed you that you can click in these individual boxes up here and change the data or change what you're looking for or researching. You can also do that here. If you want to change your quantity from one, you can do that here, or you can click the arrow or the plus or minus sign down here. You click up one, you've got two. Now you've got three. And you just toggle back and forth in this manner. You want to change your expiration. Currently, it's the June 8th. You want to go to the next one out. Click the plus sign. There's your June 10th. Click it again. There's your June 12th, and so on and so forth. I'm just going to minimize those back. Your strike price, same thing. You're on the 625 strike over here. You click on your strike, and it goes up to the 627.50, 630, and so on. You can choose the type, call or put, and you can choose your direction, long or short. So right now you're a long call, right? If you click on the S, it will change it to a short call. So a couple of different ways that you can change the information on the row itself in the respective boxes or down here. Let's say you put a bunch of information in there, you made changes, it for whatever reason just doesn't look right. You don't know how to change things back. And I'll get to the clear and the save later here. You can click on clear and it clears all your options details out. It keeps the call option data table up here for you though. If you were to click that X over there, you're going to get rid of the entire batch of options details and your options data tables. Well, heck, I'll just show you. See, now you're back to just your chart and you have to go back to your options again and start over. You may have to change your strikes again. You have to change your different expiration. So let's go back to the June 8th. So that was how to manually build the options information. Now, if you don't want to start building this on your own, you have a select strategy box right here. The select strategy box allows you to left click on that drop down and you have various different strategies you can choose from. Let's say you want to look at Okay, call option gives me that unlimited upside, but the stock absolutely has to move higher in order to make money. But a vertical or a call debit spread gives you the opportunity to have the stock just make a minimal move, or if positioned with the strikes, it can just maintain a price level. And as long as it's above the sold strike in the spread and you're happy with that return, the stock can just sit still. So maybe you like the probabilities of a call vertical spread or a call debit spread, even though you cap your upside, you sacrifice some upside with a higher probability of the trade actually working for you. So if you click on vertical now, it's going to accomplish over here in the options data table what you did by manually building this thing. One thing I want to show, let me get rid of this information here. If you get to a point, you see how I'm on the June 3rd options expiration here? If I did select strategy and I click on vertical and it brings the information over here to the side, it's still naming it for today's date. It's not naming it because of the expiration that you're choosing. It's today's date, the symbol, and the strategy. Now I'm looking to click on these boxes here and adjust this information. I can't do it. Maybe I can do it on the price, but I can't choose my buy to open, my call, the strikes. Why is that? Because you're on an option that's already expired. So if you're wondering why you can't do that, just make sure that you're not on an option that's already expired. So let's go ahead and clear this. Choose an options expiration that hasn't expired yet. Let's go to that June 8th again. Okay, we have data. Let's click on select strategy. We click on vertical. And here we are. We now have the vertical call spread, and we can change the information in these respective boxes now. Now, the system will default select a strike or a spread combination of strikes. You want to go back and do, well, let's see. We were talking about that prior resistance at 680. How about this one right here? What if this can just get back up to 641? You see on the far right over there that with my cursor up, it follows the line over to the right. It says 641. So for max profitability on a call debit spread, the stock needs to be above the sold strike in the spread. So my target is 641. I can start looking at a strike that has the sold strike being the 640 strike, the one just underneath that. Let's create a 5-point wide strike, a 635. So let's look at a 635, 640 call debit spread for June 8th. Maybe we go further out in expiration to give ourselves more time. But those are the strikes we're going to use. So you come back down here to your strikes, and okay, you're going to buy to open the lower, 635. It's there. Sell to open the higher, 640. And you now structured a 635, 640 call debit spread. 4 days to expiration still. You're doing the one contract. The cost in this is $115. The spread is a 5-point wide spread. The most a 5-point wide spread can be worth, for those of you that know, is $500. So if I'm going to potentially get $500 with the stock above 640 at expiration, offset by my $115 risk, there's a $385 profit potential. That is a more than 100% ROI. This is not a recommendation. I didn't even give any technical or system rules as to why we would consider meta, let alone consider these particular strikes. This is education on how to build an option, either manually or with the tools to do it automatically, and then adjusting your details after it brings up an auto-filled vertical spread that you requested. You can change the expirations. Let's look at further out. What if we go to the July? What if we need until July, third Friday in July, July 17th? We're going to click on that for both. Make sure you have the same expiration for both. So here you have a July 17th, and it changed the information over here from the June 8th to the July 17th. Then it's showing you the buy the 635, sell the 640. It's doing all that for you because you adjusted it right here. So now you have a 43 days until expiration, a 635, 640 call debit spread on Meta that costs $225. the max profit is 275. Remember, if you make 5 offset by the 225 cost, that's bringing in 275 bucks. You still have 100% ROI. You just have to wait a few days and weeks longer. But if you feel it needs that amount of time, and in those 43 days, it'll go up above that 640 price that you need. And if you're saying that high or that price area that you think can get to is like 641, this might be something that you consider. My point is showing you how to take an assessment of a stock and its direction. Remember, first step in the process, spot an opportunity. Then you build an exceptional or acceptable risk option trade. And we just did that right here. So there's your options details from your options data table based off whatever reasons you found from the chart to even explore trading an option on Meta in the first place. How are we doing on time, Zach?
I think we're spot on time there, Jay, and just
Right
great presentation on how to set up that vertical call spread. I saw the difference in price update from our max risk of 115 with your prior example to now it's at 225 for the 635 and 640 calls for the July 17th expiry. And it's because of the difference in price between the 26 635 and the 2375 640 strike. Is that correct? Is that why we're looking at 225 for the
You're
max
looking
risk
at
there?
the same strikes. We're still looking at the 635, 640 strikes, but we changed the expiration. So instead of 4 days left, we have 43 days left. And part of the options pricing is the time value. So because you're paying for an extra 39 days of time, that is going to be reflected in the price of the option. So
Absolutely. Yes, sir.
if
That makes
the
sense.
pricing changes here on the individual strikes, the combined cost, if you sell to open at 23.75, buy to open 26, the difference right there in those prices is what your cost is.
That's the 225 there. Yep.
Yep. And then if you make that $5, remember the stock has to be above 640 at expiration. If it's at 641, people will likely want the stock at 640. The account usually gets or has the risk of getting assigned to deliver the stock at 640. Well, the account also has, because it's a spread, these two orders on the same order ticket, if you will. Your account can get assigned at 640, but your account has the right to exercise at 635. So look up those terms, folks, assignment and exercise. Okay, so if you get assigned to deliver at one price, you can exercise your right to buy at the other, pocket the difference. In fact, I remember Rob teaching at an Oasis event 100 years ago. He talked about a lady that got a call from her broker that says she had a margin call or had to bring in money because she got assigned on a strike. And Rob says, take a look at my account, or have them take a look at your account. You see that other strike right there, the lower strike or whatever? Tell them to exercise that, because in a sense, that's what's going on here. The broker should know this. And if they don't and
Yeah.
give you a bad time like that one lady, you have the right to look into whatever brokers you want. But again, you get assigned at 640. The account has the right to exercise at 635. Picking up that $5, it's offset by that cost of 225 to make the 275. The key is the stock has to be above the sold strike in the spread.
Yeah, that was a great point to highlight there, Jay. And for whatever reason, some brokers and brokerages like to use some scary, overwhelming terms that if you're not fully informed or educated as to what they mean, can be overwhelming at times and can be intimidating as to what
Sure.
you're going to be held to or liable for. But as you said, that's the perfect solution. If you're being assigned, then you exercise the other, and no harm, no foul. So it's
There you
all just
go.
about understanding the terminology and what it all means in this very complex world of options.
Sir, yes, sir. I'm going to sneak peek real quick something, Zach,
Go for it.
because we know where the charts are. We can do our assessments of where we think the stock's going to go. Step number one, spot an opportunity. We can build an acceptable risk option trade, and we see that information here. But there's a thing called a risk graph that you can see a little bit more details about what's going to happen to this option trade over the course of time between now and expiration, depending on what the stock price is and time until expiration. And you find the risk graph or risk curve right here, risk curve button. When you click on that, Watch what happens to the chart page. It's going to minimize some real estate and bring in your risk graph. We're going to go over details on this in our next session, very likely. So yeah, you'll have all your days to expiration. You'll have the different days to expiration, your valuations based off the date and the price, P&L, potential ROIs. We'll discuss this in our next session. So that's going to wrap it for Zach and I. Let me see if I can share. I think I minimized or took away the whole screen. Did I, Zach?
Yes, sir. Yeah, you did. But it's coming back up now, it looks like.
Yeah, there we go. So you have the email supports again for Zach and I. But more importantly than this email support, Zach, do you want to take the screen back and show them again the study hall group?
Absolutely. Let's go ahead and do that. So I'll navigate over to the communities page and take the screen here.
Mhm.
Alrighty, so we should see the community forum. And as Jay mentioned, on the very bottom here, we have the study hall group. Upon selecting into the study hall group, we now are in the forum or discussion board for this session. And so as we can see, we had the first session posted last evening, and we already had a response from a Hub client, Hub user, regarding how to use chart templates, which is what we covered in the earlier parts of this session. And so this is exactly what we're looking for. This type of feedback is the best way for Jay and I to be able to know what is most sought out after and what is in most demand for us to cover. As stated up here, there's no question too basic or no suggestion that is off the table in regards to what we cover in the Hub platform demos and overall functionality and features that are available and going to continue to grow in availability as we release future patch updates. So this session will be posted on this forum shortly after we conclude here. And
that's what I was going to ask.
that'll
How
be
soon
the
should they
sequence moving
expect this?
forward. That's a good question, Jay. It'll always be the same day. It takes a little bit to render the recording and upload it to our YouTube channel, our Hub YouTube channel, to be posted here. So you can always expect the same day that the recording was held.
Excellent.
Won't necessarily stick to a solidified time as to when it'll be posted, but it should be available shortly after the session. I'd say at least an hour or two to give it time to render and edit to be uploaded to our YouTube channel. But it'll always be the same day that the live session was held.
I like that. Rather than the specific time of day, the fact that they're getting it same day it was performed live, the recording that same day, I think that's key. That's a wonderful batch of service on our end for our clients, for our subscribers, for our students.
Absolutely.
Well,
Yes,
thanks
sir.
for the time, Zach. Thanks for another session in the books. And folks, we appreciate your time too. Keep in contact with us, and we'll see you on the next one, right?
Absolutely. Yeah, looking forward to it, Jay. And thank you all for those who attended. We look forward to seeing you as we progress. So great job again today, Jay. Always a pleasure, and looking forward to the next one with you.
Likewise, sir. Can't wait, Zach. Thanks,
All
brother.
righty. Take care.
Bye now.